Tēnā tātou. Nei te mihi kia koutou katoa I tainga mai I raro I tēnei kaupapa Murihiku Regeneration, te Wānanga nei. So welcome back, whānau. If you've just joined us for this, for today, welcome. I'll collect your $50 after this. For those that have come back after yesterday, well done to you all. Ladies and gentlemen, he mihi tēnei kia koe te minita, nō reira kia koe te minita rino, nau mai, hara mai. We look forward to the offers of money that you have for us today. We had offers yesterday, we're going to take them up too. Kia koe hoki te rangatira Waihopai, Michael, nei te mihi kia koe hoki, Sir Tim, nei te mihi kia koe. Koutou hoki, I Wainganui a tātou I te ata nei, nō reira tēnā koutou. Regardless of where you are, where you came from and who you are, a big mihi aroha kia koutou. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to kick it off. This morning's speakers on the kaupapa, Tiwai, situation and the way forward. This should be exciting. Now, I've got 4 people on the on our Skype, on our Zoom hui, from the RPS Group. Now, I hope I get this right. Arnold, Deutsch, right. Alistair Kingston, Ruairi, Hanley, and Timothy Cope. Nō reira, koutou mā, nau mai hara mai. And it's over to you. Kia ora, tēnā koutou.
Kia ora koutou. I'm Arnold Deutsch. I hope you're hearing me well. Yep, excellent. We would have loved to be with you today. It was actually a hope of us to be able to travel and be with you, but considering the situation, this isn't going to happen. I'm calling in this morning from the feet of the Waitakere Ranges here, West Auckland, and my colleagues are from across the Tasman Sea. As you can tell from my accent, I'm not your purebred Westie, so I'll put it out there right now. I'm from France. Now, fear not, supporters of the All Blacks, because I have sworn allegiance to the black jersey as well. However, it's always good to see a good game, isn't it? Now, we're really looking forward to this presentation because it's been about 15 years for me to be in New Zealand, and a lot of the work I've done has really helped me consider the value of the land and the future of Aotearoa. We're certainly established here as a family, and it's an honor for me to bring in the expertise of RPS as well, because I think we are doing some good work that will have some positive implication for the future. I'm going to try to switch to a presentation now, and I will ask you to kindly tell me if you can see a screen now that is mostly plum color. Can we all see it? Yep, very good. So you wouldn't know who RPS is, I suppose, but just to give you a very quick idea, we're a 50-year-old company created originally in the UK. We're now about short of 6,000 people across the world. We're working in the environments, the energy, the defense, the infrastructure sector. I'm not going to list everything here, but if you have any question, of course, you just reach out. We've got a great website as well. We want to go as quickly as possible into the subject of our presentation today, but I think before we get into that, it's important for you to understand that in the Australasia space, we're about 1,000 people, but in New Zealand itself, right now, there's probably, well, there are only 9 RPS employees right now in New Zealand. However, we have over the last few years brought into New Zealand a lot of the expertise that we have developed elsewhere, and that's quite relevant to what we're going to discuss today. We're established in New Zealand now across the defense sector, across regional councils and local governments, assets, portfolio delivery. we're also doing quite a bit of work in the regional rail and public transport space in transport planning. So all these are pieces of work that we have really focused on because they give us a chance to provide value as an independent and unbiased pragmatic advisor, if you want. We like to solve problems that matter. That's one of our motto. You will probably hear about that a bit more today. Generally speaking, it is all about bringing this expertise from the world when we can to New Zealand, where it is beneficial. So we are very much focusing on those things that matter because effectively, there is no point telling people what they already know. So I will bring into this conversation today 3 speakers. The reason why we are bringing them in is that we understand from the little involvement and review that we've done on your region, we understand that there's going to be several aspects to the challenges in the next years. We'll bring some pragmatic, technical experience with Rory Henley this morning. Rory is our practice lead in the contaminated land management space, has had a lot of experience in delivering technical environmental strategies and solutions for projects related to oil and gas, mining, landfills, rail, you name it, a lot of them. So after our quick presentation, you'll be able to ask him all sorts of questions, really. We will also be talking a lot in our presentation about the people aspect of very large remediation projects. Of course, there is no doubt that our only hope for us here in the room and in New Zealand nowadays, we want to leave it as well protected, as well developed, and as ready as possible for the future generations. And so understanding first what really we're trying to do is key there. So Alistair Kingston will be joining us. Alistair is our Executive General Manager for Insights, Communications and Creatives. But he's here today because he's had a lot of experience in very senior roles on major transports, energy, water, property projects, engaging with communities and leveraging on his delivery experience really provides the opportunity to create some meaningful engagement. So we will be talking a lot about that because it's obviously the starting point to proper design and project planning. Now, to take us through the whole subject of remediation, we will hear first from Tim Cope. Tim is our Executive General Manager. So remediation project management, i.e. how do you deal with complex situations that require remediation of industrial sites? That's very much what Tim is supporting and championing for RPS across the world. Tim has experience on several continents. He has been really the one helping clients navigate the uncertainty of those emerging situations where the complexity of the science, of the sites, of the needs of the stakeholders require a safe approach. So across the public and private sectors, on urban development, airports, education, defense, you name it, it's all there. So with these 3 speakers, as you can see, we could be talking to you for 4 hours about very technical things, but that will bore you, and I can tell already because I can actually see you guys. I can tell that I'm boring you. So I'm going to stop now, and I'm going to hand over to Tim. I will join the conversation at the end of our presentation, where we hope to really have, an open chat to any sort of questions you might have. So Tim, if it's okay with you, I'll hand over to you now. I think you're still muted, but if you click the button, it's all yours.
Thank you, Anu. Very eloquent introduction. Thank you for that. But kia ora, tēnā koutou katoa. Thank you all very much for inviting us here today to share with you some of our knowledge and learnings from similar projects and to outline the process and some of the key critical success factors throughout what will be a very long journey for you all and what it means to you as a stakeholder in the process. Myself, as Anu mentioned, I'm the Executive General Manager focused on remediation projects for the Australia, Asia Pacific region. I have a very long history with New Zealand. I have a Māori family. We're strongly rooted in New Zealand. However, today I'm speaking to you from the city of Canberra. So much of our learning has been captured through many projects across the globe, which have very similar characteristics as the Tiwai Point remediation project. There are many complexities associated with these projects, and it's important for each of you as stakeholders, and regardless of where you sit, noting everyone has a different vantage point and view on this complex issue, is to really get to understand the processes involved and appreciate the critical issues faced throughout each stage of the process. So we are here today to share some of our insights with you, and please, we look forward to receiving some of your questions at the end of the session, and we can hopefully clarify some of the questions you've come with today. The roots of our business are based in environmental management, and our Australian New Zealand business provides support to complex remediation challenges. Many with very technically demanding issues centred around politically charged context, emotive community sentiment. Our focus is, as Anu mentioned, is to really navigate our clients and stakeholders through the uncertainty and complexities of contaminated lands within the evolving regulatory environment and to ensure the key objectives are achieved for all involved. We do this by providing advice and support across three key levels and sets of experience. Firstly, we position ourselves as trusted advisors. So for our clients, what does this mean? It's about providing an end-to-end program management and governance support. We are there to provide a framework, a structure and governance to navigate the process and drive a successful outcome. We have the in-house technical subject matter expertise as well as the second point, and this is to steer the program aligned with the science and the required outcomes. Our environmental specialists assess the issues and develop practical and achievable solutions. And thirdly, but not lastly, we have the in-house communication and engagement skills delivered by skilled practitioners to ensure there is a balanced and considered approach taken in relation to the wider stakeholders and associated people involved with the program. Next slide, Anu. So on a global scale, RPS has considerable experience in the assessment and management of contaminated land. Our teams have expertise around the world in dealing with highly complex brownfield sites, industrial facilities, and solving land contamination legacy issues. Our deep knowledge across a broad range of sectors means that we can guide our clients through every project phase to provide peace of mind throughout the process. Our approach combines comprehensive project management principles with the required technical expertise and the supporting specialised stakeholder practitioners in the environmental remediation field. So this slide, this is really just highlighting a few sites across the globe where RPS has supported the remediation of similar heavily contaminated lands, and hoping to just to talk briefly to you about 4 of these and some of the comparisons that are drawn between the challenges faced by the Tiwai point and what we achieved in these global projects. So the first one, Valero Oil Terminal. So this project was focused on the risk assessment and compliance monitoring associated with the loss of containment. The compliance monitoring included extensive groundwater sampling and analysis, and it also centred around the offensive or off-site sources, the defensive, the internal sources, and the remediation monitoring, focused generally around the pollution management and integrity of the infrastructure. So as a comparison based on Tiwai Point, the compliance monitoring for groundwater and the associated data collected via the monitoring strategy has enabled our client to refine and augment the site's mitigation controls in a proactive manner. And this has allowed us to minimise any potential risk of contaminated groundwater migrating off-site. The next one is a project conducted over in the UK, the Alcan Looms Landfill. So this has a very technically comparable side of it to Tiwai Point, given the project focus was around aluminium dross waste tip that was creating very high levels of ammonia in the groundwater. And I'm sure you all understand the relevance of that, given the situation in Tiwai. So RPS were heavily involved in the re-engineering design for the landfill compliance. And I guess in terms of the similarities of this project, it was really the byproduct of the smelting process. And we had to deal with a very complex landfill design due to the engineering aspects of Looms Lane. However, I'll put it out there that it wasn't as complex as the Tiwai landfill, given the situation within a sensitive ecological coastal setting with considerable challenges faced there in Tiwai. The third one is South Hook Liquefied Gas Terminal. RPS has worked closely with South Hook LNG for over 15 years, and we're continuing with their routine groundwater monitoring and reporting, which covers the remediation, construction, and operational phases of the facility. Further works have also included permitting, planning, ecology, acoustics, and also compliance monitoring and land quality. So from a comparison viewpoint, RPS is currently working through with our client to rationalise the current monitoring strategy based on a technical review of the extensive time series data that is available post-redevelopment of this old refinery site, which has exhibited a legacy of historical impact on the local groundwater quality. So not only through the remediation process, but important to keep that compliance moving through post-development. Surat Gladstone Pipeline. This was a project we primarily focused on the environmental impact statement, including all the specialist studies in support of the regulatory approvals. And this was essentially for a 460-kilometre transmission pipeline from the Surat Basin to Gladstone, back to a planned LNG plant. We also prepared the environmental authority and pipeline licensing application. Next slide, Anu. So look, really closer to home, this slide provides a high-level summary of some of our regional-based remediation programs currently being carried out in this part of the world, many with comparable context and challenges, highlighting the multitude layers of requirements responding across a range of factors. So some of these factors that we're responding to here include responding to the local emotive and highly engaged community groups. And Alistair Kingston will have some interesting insights into that space. Sites with cultural significance as well. We see the wider impacts to the local economy, Also, throughout these programs are the ecological sensitive sites that we need to respond to, and really focused on that managing the future land use, having a larger lens in terms of understanding the needs of the people, the needs of the ecology, and ensuring that the site is there for future generations. Central to all this is also supporting the community, education, environment, local industry, and also creating development opportunities through commercial and community partnerships, because of course the economic side of things has to work as well. So really, if you wrap all this up, it's all about ensuring a long-term intergenerational approach. Just quickly, some of these projects, we're working on the Defence PFAS investigation and remediation program. It's probably the largest environmental program ever undertaken in Australia. We've been working with the Department of Defence here in Australia for the past 5 years. It's taken us across 28 key sites. It is an extremely emotive subject, and we've worked very closely with community stakeholder groups to ensure that we have an open and transparent process, and ensuring that we meet the needs of all of the parties involved in the program. Also related to that program, with the New Zealand Defence Force, back in 2018, we provide a lot of insight and support to the Crown in relation to some of the PFAS issues closer to home. Right, next slide. So really, at the end of the day, it's all of these comparable projects outlined in these last 2 slides. It's fair to say that many of the challenges we've previously faced are actually all present in the Tiwai Point project. This is a very complex project, and I'm sure you all understand that. Tiwai Point remediation is faced by multiple fronts when it comes to the contamination that exists across the site, each with its own unique challenges and set of requirements. This creates a multi-layered program requiring each of these critical elements to be addressed, not only in isolation, but balanced across the whole. So core to this requirement for the site is to support future generations. So that's a bit of an oversight in terms of some of those broader context issues. What we'll do now is we'll dive a little bit deeper into what this actually means on a technical front for Tiwai Point, and I'll now introduce you to Rory Hanley to provide you with an overview of the technical complexities and the stage process and some of the critical elements at each stage of the process and what it means to you. Thank you, Anna.
That's great. Thanks, Tim, and good morning to everybody. And I suppose my biggest personal complex issue is being married to a Kiwi, and obviously following the unfortunate result for New Zealand against Ireland at the weekend. She basically got her own revenge, because I'm coming from very hot and very humid Darwin at the moment, where it's at currently 6:15 in the morning, a mild 30 degrees, and with fantastic humidity of about 90%. So the moral of the story is my wife is laughing last. But anyway, that's it. So moving on, anyway, yes, and again, thanks to Tim, and as Tim has mentioned, is basically each site, yes, it is unique. This site with Tiwai does have its complex issues. However, it's basically with these complex issues, they can be managed. It is unique because why? Yes, it's on the coast. It does have, as you can see just underneath the picture there, with trace elements of literally every element from A to Z. But certainly the main thing to note is that it's not surmountable. Everything in there can be managed, can be remediated, and we all can move forward. Again, with the site investigation, as I'm sure everyone has had a review of the reports and a look at the reports, it was broken up into different areas, with your peninsular domain, your landfill domain, smelter domain, and the groundwater. And again, as seen, there is elevated elements across the majority of the site. And in particular, there is impact with the groundwater and with aluminium fluoride, and in particular with 83% of the samples analysed are above the New Zealand drinking water standard. However, it is also noted that the majority, like the site, is still continuing to be monitored. And again, at this point, it is really, really, really important that, and critical, that the management of the impact and to understand the impact is essential. So Anu, just the next slide, please. And again, with all environmental programs, with remediation, the biggest thing is the process. And it is essential that when we're starting this journey, that we really, really, really ensure that we start off on the right foot and ensure that we go on the journey together, and that the planning is essential, which is obviously the first part of the process. And with the main things as well that we'd like to identify is with critical success factors in this planning stage, we have to ensure that the objective of the project is defined as well. We need to know what is the ultimate use at the end of the day, to make sure that we get everybody on board and start the journey together. And as like with the slide there as well, it is important that this journey, it involves everybody. It involves technical people, it involves community, it involves the government, and again, with the technical aspects and with the management, obviously there is going to be the process will be aligned with the contaminated land management and regulations in New Zealand. And moving on from the planning, again, it's another critical factor in relation to the journey, is that there has been an awful lot of reporting done on the site. There has been an awful lot of data collected. It's important that everybody, like, again, sits down, understands and interrogates this data to ensure that the conceptual site model is formed, and then that additional data gaps are basically identified so it can go and move on together. And from that as well, you obviously, from the PSI, you'll come up with your sample analysis and quality plan. And again, it will ensure that the data quality objectives are met, we get robust quality assurance, and again, I'm sure people in the room will identify with this, is with these initial stages, you don't want to, again, start on the wrong foot and then go have all these monitoring programs, analysis, and assessments carried out, and then all of a sudden there is an issue with another contaminant of concern. And again, it's about bringing people on the journey, and Alistair will talk to this further in relation to bringing the people on this journey and sharing the findings, obviously, of your preliminary investigation, of the planning, and again, outlining the next steps of what's going to be required. And then moving on with that, we'll have our detailed site investigation. Again, there has been an awful lot of investigations carried out on site, but one of the critical factors is that ensure that we know what's there, where it is, and where it's going. And again, it's about bringing people on that journey and communicating the findings as well, to ensure that they don't feel that anybody's being left in the dark and not understanding what's going on there. And then it's going into your remediation options and remediation action plans. And again, this is where it is sort of a bit of a bugbear as well. You want to be practical, and you want to make sure that you've got a practical, efficient remediation if required. And it's also as well in relation to the beneficial use of the site. What's it going to be used for? Because there is, again, there's visual impacts there as well on site. There's groundwater impacts, there's soil impacts. So you just want to, again, know what's there, bring the people on the journey and remediate what's required and when it's required. And again, regular updates. And then finally, on the end of the journey, it is about validation and managing. And again, one of the critical factors is again, independent validation as well. You want to make sure that there is an independent body there that will review reports and validate that the suitability of the site. And again, reviewing management methods. There's been numerous sites over a number of years that people, yes, it'll get validated, but however, it is ensuring that you're reviewing it with updating regulations and again, updating community aspects as well. And you want to basically reflect on the achievements that has been done with the entire team as well, which involves the community, the technical people, the project managers, the contractors, everybody. Because in the end of the day, this is a process, this is a journey, and you want to make sure that everybody's feels a part of it. So next slide there, please, Anu. And in relation to the contaminated land management, again, it's with RPS here, we've got the two aspects as well, which again is quite unique. Is we've got the environmental technical services, which I'm obviously a part of, and then you've also got the project management services, which again we can manage and detail all different complex issues and manage it from a project governance perspective and a technical perspective as well. And it's all, again, as I previously discussed in the last slide, it is going literally from cradle to grave, your program initiation, all the way through your PSI, your sampling analysis quality plan, your detailed site investigation, and to all the, again, important financial areas as well, which is the procurement and delivery and the management and remediation, and particularly also finding. Some people don't like the technical side, other people like the project management. So it's good to have, like dare you say, two sides of the coin really, where you've got the people can like the technical people can concentrate on the technical aspects, and other people can concentrate on the program management and the project governance. And in relation to that, it's also a really good opportunity as well to bring on for employees if they go and say, oh, look at I don't particularly want to be a technical guru. I prefer to look at the dollars and cents, which I personally prefer to be out dabbling in some contamination and smelling hydrocarbons in the morning. But yeah, it's basically not particularly for me, but we've definitely got the people in the background that can do that. But again, I suppose the main thing about the entire program and the entire progress of contaminated land management and remediation, it is ensuring that we carry out really good engagement, bringing those people on the journey, and just identifying the issues. That's it. And so moving on, I will hand over to Alistair. Thanks, Dean.
Thank you, Rory. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. I'm not married to a New Zealander. I'm just putting it out there. I'm probably the only person in the room. So thank you for the opportunity to share with you some of our learnings that we've gained from engaging with communities and stakeholders on contamination projects. Hopefully I can give you some insights and some things that you can consider as a group looking to play a part in shaping the future of Tiwai Point and your community, and share some perspectives gained from working with project proponents and government agencies. Look, even when we're working for government or a project proponent, my people as an engagement practitioners, we always need to have the community, their needs, their interests and drivers front of mind. We need to engage your perspectives, understand your perspectives, your concerns and needs to make sure that we can engage effectively with you, that you're getting the information you need and are participating in the project process. Look, from a community, I'm telling you to suck eggs here, but from a community perspective, contamination is a really complex issue. It's often highly technical. There's a large number of stakeholders with varying interests and also varying levels of impact. Some people may be highly impacted and very interested, others less so and less interested, and some are completely disinterested. There's also the challenge of perceived risk, so particularly when it comes to contamination with potential health risks attached to it. So perception very much equals reality. So the project owner or proponent needs to make sure that the community and stakeholders are equipped with the facts that you need to inform decisions and provide informed comment rather than perceptions or a perceived understanding of the issue. And that perceived risk will move up and down depending on the stakeholder and their connection with land or country, and taking an evidence-based approach is critical, focusing on the facts and the actual situation, and where necessary, doing a bit of myth-busting while being very sensitive and attuned to the community members or stakeholders' concerns or position. So for me, there's 4 key tips I'd give you, things that a community should expect and look to as part of a contamination engagement program. So how you should expect to be engaged. So the first thing is very much around transparency. The community has a right to be kept informed, as do stakeholders within government. That means you need to be provided with information and updates regularly, or have information shared as it comes to hand. It means the sharing of findings, good or bad, and being transparent about what you've found, where it is, how much there is, etc., so that you can make informed decisions and participate fully in any engagement program. As a community, you should always feel that your well-being and the well-being of your environment is being considered. If there are exposure pathways to humans or the environment from the contamination sources, then that needs to be clearly communicated to you, along with the steps that's being taken to break those pathways to ensure your well-being and that of the environment. There also needs to be very much transparency around the approach being taken. Sometimes, as community members may have a view on what needs to be done, but the science is perhaps telling a different story. So that's why it's important to clearly communicate the approach being taken and why it's being taken. I suppose, for example, sometimes we see community members have aspirations that all of the contamination needs to be removed from a location. But the science says, well, actually, sometimes it's safer to leave it there or to manage it, because removing it could cause greater impacts to the people or the environment. So where there are situations like that, that needs to be clearly communicated so there's a shared understanding of the situation. The last thing on transparency is there should be transparency on where the information is coming from that's being used to inform decision making. So if external experts have been engaged to provide advice, then you should be told who those experts are and where the advice is coming from. The second thing is having progressive conversations. So with investigation programs, as Rory mentioned before, you need to be upfront and honest with the community and stakeholders about what you do know, but also what you don't know. It's actually okay not to have all the answers at the start, and that's the function of the investigation program, to work out what you don't know, so you know what's there and you can have a plan going forward. So as you go through the investigation program, more and more information will become available. And as you get more information, you can have a conversation with the community, between the community and the project. So you can build on previous conversations that have been had and have deeper conversations. The results of each round of work or investigation, the findings, etc., should be shared, so you can have that iterative conversation about the current state and provide informed comment or feedback, or just have a good understanding of what's coming next. It's also really, really important for the interactions and conversations that you have with each other between the project and community to be respectful. That can get you a lot of traction. So more than raised voices or protests, considered respectful conversations get you a really long way. And from an engagement practitioner's perspective, that's sort of having that productive and meaningful dialogue is really, really, really important. The third thing that I think is really important is creating context. Creating context is providing the information and the key things that you need to expect. It's also making sure that you as a community are prepared, equipped, and enabled to participate in the engagement process. It's about making sure there's a clear understanding of the situation, the work that's been done or needs to be done to successfully manage the issue or impacts. So not all of us are scientists, I'm certainly not. And with contamination, there's a lot of highly technical terms used. So it's really important that the community and stakeholders are provided with information they need in an accessible way. It's certainly not about dumbing things down. It's not about not communicating some things. It's about using plain English, using visual communications tools like information graphics, but also making sure that you're being checked in with to make sure that the information you're provided or being provided is accessible, understandable, and is giving you the understanding that you need of the situation. And if it's not, then the project or the proponent needs to refine its approach to make sure that the information is being provided in an appropriate way. As such, I'd really encourage you to ask questions. Questions are good, just to make sure that you have the level of detail that you need, the understanding that you need to be across the situation, to feel comfortable and to understand what's going on and why. And just flagging, sometimes with contamination, there does need to be an aspect of educational myth busting. So, for example, some of the work that I've done with an airport here in Queensland has been about myth busting the perceived health impact. So, you know, the only way that nearby community members could potentially be exposed to this particular source of contamination was by eating crops grown in airport soil or drinking water off airport land, none of which were happening. So just being really clear that this is the current state of the contamination. Here are the potential pathways to get to people, and actually it can't get to you. So just being really clear about what the actual situation is. Finally, the last thing is starting with the end in mind. This is really important. Because it's important to identify early the part that you want to play, what you want to get out of the engagement program or the project as community members. This is important for you, but it's also important for whoever's delivering the engagement program. It's about working out what you want and having clear, open and honest conversations about what getting to your ideal future state looks like. It's important to recognise that you might have similar goals to the project or the proponent, but see different ways of getting there. As such, it's really important to know what you want and be able to have the conversations about it clearly. That way, if both parties in the conversation are being clear about what they want and having the right conversations, that you're more likely to have a productive, open and trusting working relationship and more likely to achieve what you need to achieve. This is an opportunity for you as a community or a group of communities, groups before engaging with the project to get aligned. This gives you power. Very often we see a number of community groups participating in engagement processes all coming from a slightly different or conflicting angle, which makes it really quite challenging for a project to engage with the community and can present barriers to achieving productive results. So as such, a key piece of advice I'd have you would be to get internal alignment early within your group and other aligned interested groups. This way you can present a united and consensus voice and means that you can really have an effective voice and seat at the table. Next slide, please. I've only got 2 slides. So the next one, there's a lot on here, but I'm not going to go through all of it. But really, what I wanted to leave you with was a bit of a thought starter as a community about how you'd like to participate or be involved in the engagement process. So there's 2 diagrams which you consider moving forward to inform your thinking about how you'd like to operate. So the first one on the left is the IAP2 community engagement. So IAP2 is the International Association of Public Participation, the peak body for engagement practitioners. This model is used to identify the part that various groups can play in the engagement process. So who leads the engagement process and who acts and who participates in it. So there are 4 different models, 2 where the community leads the process and 2 where the organisation leads. And then there's 1 where you work together with shared leadership and action. So for you as a community, it's probably quite important to think at this stage about and discuss the part that you'd like to play in the engagement and in the process in shaping the future, what is decided and done. You know, for example, do you want to play a leading role in shaping the engagement program, or are you more comfortable being a participant? Leading can take the form of advocacy, identifying what you want, clearly stating it and supporting the organisation to deliver it. Or the organisational project could take the lead and you're the participant involved and consulted. There's the shared leadership role, where both the community and the project participate and contribute to the decisions, but also take responsibility for the actions and outcomes. So these models are just thought starters, and what you do doesn't need to fit into one of these boxes. But I just wanted to share with you some ideas or starting points for which you can discuss and align on how you might like to participate going forward. This diagram over on the right is intended to be another discussion starter for how deeply you'd like to be involved in the final solution or product. So as engagement practitioners, we use the IP2 spectrum of engagement to help us design and deliver appropriate engagement programs. And as a community, it's probably important for you to be aware of the potential models of engagement which can be employed, so to inform your thinking as to how you'd like to be involved. So on the spectrum, and apologies if you're familiar with this, sort of moving left to right, there's an increasing impact of decision or issue, and the deepening or the deeper levels of engagement that or involvement the community have in shaping the outcome or solution. On the left is inform, where you're provided with balanced and objective information, and you're kept informed as to what's going on. It's a one-way flow of information. On the far right is empower, where the community is empowered to make decisions about, and the project proponent does what you want them to do. So being upfront, most engagement actually happens between the inform and involve parts of the spectrum. There are sort of collaborate and empower engagements, but they're less frequent. So, you know, this is particularly the case where there's a project proponent and the community as a stakeholder. It's highly unlikely to have empower there. However, you know, it's not unheard of. I know there was a project on the North Island a few years ago where the Department of Environment empowered a local community to decide how a river catchment was going to be managed into the future. So it's absolutely not unheard of. It's also important to note that it's not binary on the spectrum where a project operates. So at times it might be informed, providing information. Other times it could be consult, collaborate or involve, where there are opportunities to co-design solutions or for the community to be involved in options analysis. So to, you know, what option do you feel most comfortable with from your perspective in connection to country, you know, that you're most comfortable with. So as a community, I'd suggest you have a think about sort of what part you'd like to play in the decision-making process and look for ways of securing that level of involvement. If you're looking to collaborate on solutions, I'd suggest setting up a reference group that represents all the key stakeholder groups. It means you can have a direct line to the project, but also that the project has a direct line to you where they can test feedback or ask for, test solutions or ask for feedback. So in closing, to summarise, remember that you should have transparency, progressive conversations to be provided with context and information, and that you should start with the end in mind. And as a community, I'd suggest you should very much align on what you want, how you want to be involved, and present that united face and unified voice to have that seat at the table. Thank you.
Thank you, Alistair. Thank you very much. So that concludes the presentation that we had prepared. I'm now going to just hand over to you. And of course, if you have any question, please bring them in now. We will obviously be available to answer any question later on if you want to pass them on. But I think we have a bit of time for a conversation, haven't we?
Yes, we do. So any questions?
Kia ora koutou. Thank you very much for your presentation. I've just got a real quick question. I'm just confused about the role of RPS in this situation with Tiwai. I know we've got the GHD reports that were in conjunction with NZAS, but I'd like to know who the client is of RPS in this this role. So thanks.
Can I just take that one because it's probably something I should have told you at the very beginning. We are not involved. That's it. Full stop. We don't have a client. We're just here because we've been invited to share our insights on similar processes. At this stage, we don't, and therefore we are totally open to questions from any sides. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, okay, well that puts a different perspective on it. I thought this project was already underway and you were working with Rio Tinto to actually start the process, but obviously it's a lot earlier than that. But my thoughts are along the lines that you've noted a lot of atomic periodic table elements there, and I am aware of international remediation where you can actually take the soil, take all those elements out of it and put good soil back. And I guess the next part of my question is, you're saying you've got a long-term view and what will the eventual use of the site be. How much consideration needs to be given to the fact that we're almost at the sea level And with global warming and climate change and all those issues confronting us, which probably means far more extreme weather events, that this site should really be remediated to go back into nature and just forget about trying to carry on with any industrial use.
Yeah.
Maybe Tim, do you want to answer that one, or Rory, one of you?
Yeah, look, I think there's a comment from all of us really around that. That's a very valid question you raise. It raises quite a few elements there, but if I could just talk to the future land use and rising sea levels and allowing the site to regenerate and then go back into nature. The key consideration here is an agreed pathway for the future direction of the site. Now, I say that as if that's just a simple thing to do. It's extremely complex when you've got such a broad range of stakeholders involved. You've obviously got an industrial site. You've got some serious kit out the back in terms of energy production. There's a lot of different ways this site could go. It could be regenerated for alternate energy use, green hydrogen, gas as an example, and provide jobs to the local community, driving the local economy and providing an outcome. It could be centred around a more ecologically balanced solution, given the significant ecology located around the site. But I guess I raise all of this as these are the considerations that really need to be mapped out. To Alistair's point around the plan, what is the plan? And I guess that's a big part around the stakeholder engagement, is collectively coming together and agreeing on the plan. Now, not all parties associated with stakeholder group will see their preferred view come to light. But I guess it's a balanced approach. It's a very difficult process, but communication and engagement is centre to all of that. And maybe Rory, if you answer the technical question around the elements.
Yeah, for sure. Like there is definitely, obviously, detection of various elements there. Obviously, aluminium, fluorine, sulfate in the groundwater, etc. And again, it's a very, very valid point in relation to climate change and the impacts that it's going to have. And to basically answer the question, it's continued monitoring. They are doing monitoring currently on site, and then it is developing the plan and starting the process for this future management and ongoing possible remediation in relation to the future use of the site. I know you're saying in relation to returning it back to recreational use and using it from a community perspective. 100% basically agree. And in relation to it's just the ongoing management, collecting the data and understanding again what the data is saying to it, and communicating it to the community groups as well in a format that everybody understands.
Thank you. I just want to thank RPS for their presentation. I'm Jen Nolan. I'm the Director of External Relations for Rio Tinto. And we completely agree. We think transparency, collaboration and engagement is the pathway to a good process. We have not had any communication from RPS ourselves, but I see that you've made good use of our detailed site investigation report, which we released publicly for everyone to see. And we're really happy to give anyone in this group a presentation on our closure process, and you'll see that it's very similar to the process that RPS have outlined here. I guess one of the problems we're all wrestling with is a degree of uncertainty, and we're wrestling with that at Tiwai too, our team. And we'd like to, I think when you apply for a job in a government department, one of the things they ask you is how can you handle ambiguity? And it's a difficult thing. And that is the process we're in at the moment. We're dealing with ambiguity. And I guess I'm asking for a bit of patience But I'm also asking for this community to keep talking to us, because we very, very much want to talk to you. And again, I thank RPS and couldn't agree more. A good process is based on collaboration, it's based on engagement, and it's based on transparency, and that's what we're committed to. Kia ora.
Kia ora. Great question.
Hello everyone, my name is Emma Moran, and just as some context, I wrote the rules for the region on land contamination a few years ago. It's quite interesting listening to everybody talk about engagement. One of the several points that sort of have come up in listening to all those speakers, and one of them is this distinction that seems to be drawn between the community and stakeholders. Everyone has a stake in what's going to happen. We're all stakeholders, and I think it's a fundamental mistake from the beginning to sort of somehow think that there's two sort of different positions or situations. The other thing is that in terms of language, if you're going to talk to people, you need to talk in English or Maori. You can't talk about insights and learnings and moving forward and using that sort of jargon. You've actually got to make it accessible to people. And the other thing is that I know a reasonable amount about this region, and I've done a lot of sort of science and economic work in the past, and my sort of, I can't get past the idea that the only thing that is actually going to happen to the site in the future is it's going underwater.
Thank you for your comments. Very, very appropriate. I personally struggle as well with this distinction between community and stakeholder, and I think we all totally agree that the first step probably to any decent engagement is to find our joint voice and find a way for everyone to actually speak the same language. I think Alistair's point earlier in his presentation that really marked me, Alistair, was this idea that perception is reality, and indeed, how do you get to a shared perception of the situation if you don't speak the same language and don't share the same ideas? So that's probably my feeling on that first point. Now we have not done any detailed investigation or detailed analysis of the investigation reports that are publicly available, and we know nothing else than what is publicly available. So it's not probably appropriate for us RPS to comment on any detail there. If there is one thing that comes to my mind is that the challenge of sea level rise and generally the impact of environmental patterns changing is something that our clients share, and that we obviously the 5,600 RPS employees we share, because we are also the community and the stakeholders, or whichever way we call ourselves. So it's very valid, and I can only share your concern. Yes. Is there any special question that you would like one of the three specialists here to answer on that? Guys, is there any further comments you would like to make?
I think we've got a couple of more questions and comments. Thank you.
Kia ora.
Kia ora.
One question, what happens to all the material that you remove from the site? How do you process that? How do you clean it, or how do you dispose of it?
So maybe, Rory, do you want to tell us what various things you have seen on various sites? I mean, I suppose it goes from taking it away and I suppose paying someone else to keep it for you, down to actually cleaning it and bringing it back. But I'll let you detail that.
Yeah, like again, I can obviously only talk to basically similar projects and experiences that I've had over the years around the globe. and particularly with the identified elements and the concentrations that I've seen in these publicly available reports, there is various methods of remediation from, as you've said, remove the soil and go and place it elsewhere, or else there's also other remedial techniques such as soil washing, which is in the end, which is literally as it says, is you excavate material and you put it through a washing plant, and then that both treats the soils plus obviously all the associated water associated with it. And then there is other methods as well, such as thermal treatment. So there's in situ treatment, and there's also in relation to like stabilization methods. If there is concerns with the contamination migrating away, there is elements and remediation techniques that you can put into the soil and ensure that the elements are not migrating away from the site or causing issues.
Yeah, thanks, Rory. I suppose one interesting point in what you've just explained is that each of those solutions obviously needs to be tailored to what the problem is, but also, as we talked about, what it is that the community wants to achieve, and according to what timeline, I presume. And therefore, understanding that you might decide on a solution for a period of time, but you might have to review this. Hence, I suppose, your point in the process that you developed, which was to actually monitor what has been achieved and continue to have a look at it to make sure that it's working well. Sorry, sir, I think you were about to ask another question or maybe clarify something?
I was just going to say thank you.
Well, thank you to you then.
Thank you.
Kia ora koutou, I'm Wilma Faulkner. I'm the General Manager Strategy, Planning and Engagement from Environment Southland. We're the Regional Council here and the regulatory body, along with our colleagues at the Invercargill City Council, who I can't see today, but, I can see the Mayor, but not my colleagues from the offices. Just so that those of you in the room who are not aware of this do know that government has funded Environment Southland and the Invercargill City Council jointly to engage in a detailed examination of the site at Tiwai, and we've been working cooperatively with New Zealand Aluminium Smelters on that project. They've shared with us all of the information that they've shared publicly with you, and all of the information that we have on the site is available on our website, and the program of work and how we're approaching it is also being communicated and updated as that advances. So you're very welcome to go there and see all of that. And just so that you're aware, this program is actually being overseen by a joint oversight group, and that oversight group is ourselves and Invercargill City Council. It is also Te Runanga o Awaroa's remediation project team, and their kai whakahaere is on our oversight group. Te Runanga o Ngāi Tahu's office in Christchurch has also got their General Manager Strategy and influence on that oversight group. The Department of Conservation is joining that oversight group, as has no and heritage responsibilities legislatively, and also as a neighbouring landowner. And the Ministry for the Environment, who's also here today, Sean Lewis, is on our oversight group. So we've been working on this project now for many months, having received funding from central government for it at the beginning of the year. So that's ongoing, that information is ongoing and available, and will be available through, on our website, but also will be available through the various stakeholders back to their groups as well. Thank you.
Thank you. That sounds like a strong governance model. Interesting point you make about data. As we said, that data is very important, data ownership. But we were talking as well about this conceptual site model. I think a great way to achieve transparency in this day and age is to actually maybe find a way to bring together all the data that has ever been collected, to provide that transparency to anyone that wants to achieve it. But anyway, let's go ahead, sir. You have a question?
Yeah, I have got a question.
Yeah, that's fine.
I have got a question. Actually, there's a whole cultural content out on this wall here about the research and that we've done. And when we were doing a lot of the research, we've also IOA'd for a lot of material, and we've got a lot of material on what needs to be done here. And some of us are monitoring the regulators very seriously, and there will be a statement that will be coming in due course, but we're just monitoring that really, really carefully from the Invercargill City Council and also Environmental Southland and Rio's information.
Kapai, one more question. We've got time for one more. There we go. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, just a quick question for RPS. When you look at a site like this, and it's a pretty extensive site, and the aluminium smelter is still operational and will be for another few years yet, by the sound of it, what sort of timeline do you find in other overseas projects between when they can vacate a site and when you can actually bring a site back to normality where you can use it for something else? I'd imagine that timeline could be quite extensive, well into excess of 10 years or more.
Totally depends. I've worked on a similar chemical site in the northeast of UK where we'd demolished and remediated some heavily contaminated material with hydrocarbons, metals, and it was all done and dusted in 6 months. And that was basically from it was a year in relation to the closure plan from the team to then 6 months in relation to the demolition and remediation team coming in. And again, each site, as we said at the start, is unique, and everything can be complex as well. So it totally depends on the remediation technique as well, and again, bring the journey with the community, with the clients, with the consultants, with all the team on how to do it efficiently and appropriately for the community and the clients. So yeah, so timelines can vary quite significantly.
Kapai, we've got one last statement here.
Kia ora. Welcome to all the visitors to the city. I was wondering if the deal is patched up and they decide that we can go ahead and sign another contract and keep the smelter going, one of the unknowns, is there value in that work that's been achieved, or do you go back to square one and have to start again with the whole process? I don't know who that's addressed to.
I am not sure either. So certainly unable to look into the crystal ball. We obviously have no insight on what will happen. I suppose my general comment to your question, sir, would be that the data that's been collected, the work that has been done to actually engage the community around these problems will never be wasted, because effectively you are defining what you want to achieve together for the future. Having said that, of course, the detail of the various engagements and various work that is being done today is not on me to comment on.
They don't know.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Thanks.
Nō reira e te ui e te whānau kia koutou ngā kai kōrero e mihi tēnei kia koutou katoa. Thank you very much for your insight. We'll let you know if you got the job.
So we're around. We don't necessarily need the job, but we are very, very pleased to have been with you today. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you for your time. Lovely to be with you today. Bye-bye.
We're going to have morning tea now, so enjoy whatever kai you're going to have. Ka whai?
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is that time, morning tea. I'm sure there's a lot of discussion that will be had. After morning tea, or actually during morning tea, we're going to section off the room. So the bad guys on that side, the good guys on this side. We'll work it out along the way. But please enjoy your, are they scones? Muffins? Scones. Oh, sorry. I grew up in Tuatapere, so it was scones back in those days. Forgive me.